Hello everyone and welcome to our Learning Hour webinar. So I'm Nafis and I'm excited to be your host for today's session. Today we have our expert trainer Miss Adila and she will be sharing a very interesting topic about pivot table made easy. So during the session, if you have any question, do comment on the chat box below. Miss Adila will answer the question at the end of the session. So without further ado, I pass this floor to Miss Adila.
All right, hi everyone. So thank you so much, Nafis, for the introduction. All right. So firstly, Assalamualaikum and good afternoon. So welcome to the Excel Academy Learning Hour webinar session. And for today, we will be covering quite a specific topic inside Microsoft Excel itself, which is called as pivot table made easy. All right. So that is the title. Okay, so without wasting any time, allow me to present to you my screen share so you can see the file that I'm going to go through for the session today. All right, so here let me share screen and also set for the entire screen. Okay, there you go. So here we will be looking at a series of data. All right, so here I have the file with me called pivot table property portfolio. Okay, so here we have a data on property itself, whereby in column A, we have the postcode. In column B, we have the type of property such as semi-D, terrace, flat, bungalow, and so on. Column C is the location. Column D is the number of bedrooms. Column E is the number of bathrooms. Column F is the reception rooms. Column G is the garden size. Column H is the date on market. All right, column I is the date where the property is sold. Column J is the asking price, and also column K is the sale price. Okay, right. So we have data from column A to column K here. Now, for those of you who have never heard of pivot table before and have never seen how it looks like or what is the function, okay. So firstly, pivot table, you can find it under your insert tab. Okay, so if you open up your Excel workbook, okay, you would see the first tab that you have is file, second is home, third is insert. So when you click on the insert tab itself, the first thing that you see on your left is pivot table. Okay, so this is the function that we are looking at for today. Okay, other than that, pivot table in general, okay, it helps you to create a summarized table, a summary table if you have a complex data. Okay, so later I will show you what are some of the examples. Okay, what are some of the summary table that we can do using pivot table. All right, so here I have some requirements here. Okay, so inside column M, I've just put a simple requirement here. Example, if you want a summary table to show the sale price by type of property. Okay, so what I'm imagining is I want one column to list out the type of property, terrace, semi-D, bungalow, flat, and so on. And then I want to see the sale price. Okay. Number two, we want the asking price by type of property. Number three, we want to see the type of property and the number of location, right? So it means that for each type of this property, they exist in how many location, all right? Fourth, number of bedrooms by type of property. So we want to see for each of the property, how many number of bedrooms they are, okay? And number five, this one is a very specific requirement whereby it tells us under the row quadrant, we need to put type, under the column quadrant, we need to put location, and under the values quadrant, we need to put location. Now, for pivot table, I'll be covering few items for today. First, we will go through pivot table basic, okay, whereby I'll show you how we can use 2 quadrant, 3 quadrant, as well as 4 quadrant. So if you don't know what quadrants mean, I'll look into that shortly. Okay. Second is how can you perform sort and filter inside pivot table itself. Okay, so sort and filter. Third, okay, I'm going to show you how you can use distinct count. All right, so you've heard of sum, you've heard of count before, but this is something new which is called distinct count. And the fourth item is calculated field. All right, so these are the 4 main items I'll be covering for today's session for pivot table. So we have basic covering 2, 3, and 4 quadrant. We have sort and filter. We have distinct count and also calculated fill. Now let's go through the first step of creating a pivot table. The first step is very simple. All right, you just put your cursor anywhere inside your data. So your data is located from cell A3, okay, until cell K59 here at the bottom. So you can put your cursor anywhere inside A3 to K59. Okay, so that you can put it here, right? You can put it under the word down here, anywhere. Okay. Once you put your cursor inside your data, now you can go to your insert tab. You click on pivot table, and then this table will come out. First, you can check, right? The table or range that you're selecting is cell A3 to cell K59. So this is correct. All right. So you need to pay attention on which of the table or range that you selected. Sometimes when you select your range or you select your table, right? When you create pivot table, then you encounter a problem. Like, why I cannot do this? Why I cannot do that? Because you need to pay attention to the table or range that you've selected. Sometimes without you realize, you click something else, right? So you click here. So here, if you can see, it's only showing as cell G6. So that's why you cannot create your pivot table. Okay, that's because you have not selected the correct table or the correct range. So if you want to select, all right, make sure you include the title as well. Example here under row 3, we have the title of postcode, type, and so on. And then you would have the choice on where do you want to place your pivot table. Okay, so it can either be in a new worksheet, all right, or it can be in an existing worksheet. Okay, so if you click on new worksheet, okay, so can you see now your pivot table exists in the new worksheet here? Okay, but if you go back and let's say here, I select existing worksheet, meaning I want my raw data to be in the same worksheet as per my pivot table. So when you click on existing worksheet, below your existing worksheet here, there's an area here where you need to input your location, because you need to remember, if you want to put in an existing worksheet, Excel would like to know where do you want to locate, where do you want to put your pivot table. All right, they couldn't read our mind, so we need to tell them exactly where is the location here. So here, let's say I want it to be under column M. Okay, so I just click on the cell M9 here. So you can see here location is M9. You click on OK. Once you click on OK, on the right side of your laptop or computer, you can see there's pivot table fields, and there are 4 quadrants. All right, so this is what I meant by the quadrants earlier. So bottom left, we have filter. Upper left, we have filter. Upper right, we have column. Bottom left, we have rows, and bottom right, we have values. Now, when do you use filter, column, rows, and values? Okay, so row, as usual, it's your horizontal, right? Column is your vertical. Filter, if you want to filter any of your data, and values, that is where they will help to summarize our data there. All right, let's say if you want to see the sale price, so any data with numbers, example, sale price, asking price, that would be under our value. Okay, but that is not necessarily the case always. Sometimes you can also put your text data under your values quadrant, right? So now you have your 4 quadrant here. We will start off by utilizing 2 quadrant. Okay, so when you want to use pivot table, you need to use at least a minimum of 2 quadrant. And the 2 quadrant that we always use are rows quadrant and also values quadrant, the bottom part, right? Both the left hand side, rows, and also values quadrant. Now, I want sale price by type of property. So here, under the pivot table fields, I just click on type. Okay, so now you can see the type is under my rows quadrant, and then I scroll to the bottom here, I click on sale price. And if you can see, sale price is automatically assigned to my values quadrant. So remember, I told you earlier, under values, they will prioritize any data with numbers. Okay, right, so here, if you see under my column M and N here in the middle, now I have my summary table, my pivot table. So here the numbers here, I'll apply comma under home tab, right? And then I reduce the decimal places. Okay, so now I have a very nice summary showing the sale price by type of property, whereby bungalow, the total sale price is 3.9 million, detached 3.65, flat 0.17, and so on. And here we also have the grand total. All right, so this is an example whereby you are using two quadrant, okay, which are rows and also values. All right. Okay, so that is the first example. The second example is we are going to start using three quadrant, meaning we are going to use column, quadrant, rows, and also values. Okay, so this is the two quadrant. Now, we can go back to our data. Okay, we can go back to our data here. Just put your cursor anywhere inside your data, go to Insert tab, pivot table, existing worksheet, and now the location we choose below our first pivot table earlier. Okay, and then just click on OK. So here now our pivot table fields comes out as well. So let's create three quadrants. Now we are using three quadrants, column, rows, and values. So here I click on type. Okay, the same one just as per earlier. I'm using sale price under values. Now what I want to put under my column is the location, right? So when I click on location, can you see whenever your data is in the form of text, all right, Excel will automatically put it under your rows quadrant here. And if your data in the form of numbers, they will put it under values. Now, how can I move location here from rows to column? First, you can just click, drag, and then you leave it under column. All right, you just drag it over and you just leave it under column. Or the other way is, all right, you can just click on the drop down arrow here under location and you click on move to column labels. All right, so in that way, they will help you to move it as well. So here you have two options. Either you want to drag it over, or if you want it to move it properly by clicking on the move to column. Okay, so you have two options. Now we are using three quadrants. Under column quadrant, we have location. Under rows, we have type. Under values, we have sale price. And here is how your pivot table looks like. Let me apply some cosmetic. All right, let's do some editing here. Okay, I'll center everything, the alignment, I'll center it, and then for the values, I'm applying comma, and then I reduce the decimal places. Right, so now it's nice here. So here, this is how it looks like. All right, so under your row here, your horizontal, you have your type of property. Column here, you have your location such as countryside, remote, town, and village. And then you would have your sale price as well. So when you have this pivot table, what can you say is for bungalow, all right, it exists in countryside worth 3.3 million, remote 0.27 million, town 0.3 million. However, bungalow does not exist in the village. Okay, so it's a very nice summary. You can see what is located, okay, what type of property is located where, and do they have it in those locations, right? Same for detached, it exists in every location except for village. For flat, it only exists at the town, okay? Terrace, it exists at countryside and also town. It does not exist at the remote and also village location. And here we can also see the sum of the sale price here, okay? So this is an example of utilizing three quadrants, okay? So here I'll put here three quadrants. All right, wonderful. Okay, so now we will try to utilize all of those four quadrants, okay, including filter, values, row, and also column, right? So here, let's go back to our data. Click anywhere inside our data, go to Insert tab, pivot table, existing worksheet. Now, be mindful when you want to create pivot table that are using all four quadrant, right? When you want to choose your location, ensure there are at least 3 to 4 rows, okay? There are empty spaces here before you choose the location, all right? The reason why is if you put your pivot table close to each other, right, you won't be able to create your pivot table, because when you use all four quadrant, they need that extra space there. Okay, so shortly I'll show you what I'm talking about. Right, so here I put space, I space out between 4 rows before I click on cell M29, click OK. So here I'll choose type, okay, location, the same as per earlier, and also sale price. So location, I move it to column. So it's the same as per the 3 quadrant earlier, location under column, type under rows, and sale price under values, okay? And then here what I'll do is I want to put another title under filter. So what I'll put is the garden size. I just put it under filters here. And then now you can see my pivot table. They are using all 4 quadrant. Let me align it nicely, apply comma, and remove the decimal places. All right. So can you see when you apply filter, there's another part up here for you to filter whether your garden size, you want it small only, you want to see only medium, only large, or you want to select multiple items. All right, so that's why I told you earlier, you need to leave at least, okay, three 3 rows in between before you click on where you want to locate your pivot table. All right, so it's they required extra spaces here for the filtering part. All right, so now if I go to the filter part up here, if I click only on small, first let's have a look at the pivot table. Okay, so if we have all types of garden size, the grand total here is 13.4 million. But if I only filter to small, when I click on OK, can you see your pivot table also change accordingly? Right, now it reduced and only showed the grand total of 1.8 million. So meaning this pivot table now, it only shows you, okay, the property that have the garden size small. All right, so terrace here in countryside, 0.4 million, town bungalow 0.3 million, and so on. Okay, so if you only want to see medium, click on medium, click OK. So now it changed to around 6 million here. Okay, so if you want to filter up and whatnot, you no longer have to create a lot of pivot table. You just utilize all 4 quadrants as per what we did just now. Okay, all right. So that is the pivot table basic. First, what is the step-by-step for you to create pivot table? Remember, you can have the option of choosing existing worksheet or new worksheet. And then we are also looking at utilizing 2 quadrant example here. Okay, the first part, 3 quadrant here, and finally all 4 quadrants including filter. Okay, so with that, pivot table basic is done here and explained. Okay. Now, how do you remove your pivot table? You just click nicely on the pivot table or even additional row or column, but the rule is you need to make sure all of your pivot table is selected. Once you select everything, go to your keyboard here and just click on delete. So can you see now my pivot table has been removed, okay? Now, the next item that I wanted to cover is called as sort and filter. Okay, so let's go back to the first pivot table that we created using 2 quadrant. So for your information, when we create pivot table, okay, Excel will help us to put in to create our pivot table or summary table in this way, whereby they will help to show it in alphabetical order. Okay, so that's why it starts with bungalow, it's end with terrace, so it's an alphabetical order A to Z. Let's say I want to show it the other way around, example Z to A, so I want terrace at the top, bungalow at the bottom. Or if you want to show it in the form of numbers, let's say I want to show the highest number first in descending order, meaning highest to lowest, or if you want to show lowest to highest, that's also possible. Now, how can you perform sort and filter under your pivot table? Is very simple. You just go to your pivot table here, and then you would see there is actually one drop down arrow button here. So you click there, and then here you see there's the option of sort A to Z. or even Z2A. Okay, so that is in the form of alphabetical. If you want to actually perform your sort and filter in the form of numbers, you can just go to more sort options. Okay, and here you can see there's the option of ascending and also descending. So ascending means it's lowest to highest, and descending means highest to lowest. Now, what I want is in descending order, I want to show the highest amount of sale price first, okay, and continues to the lowest one. So here I'll click on descending, and under the drop down button here, I'll change it to sum of sale price because the number is under the column of sum of sale price. So make sure you change it here, and then you click on OK. So now you can see the highest number semi-D here is at the top, 4.4 million, followed by bungalow, 3.9 million, and detached, 3.65 million. And finally, you can see the lowest number is flat, okay, amounting to 0.17 million. Okay, so that is how you perform sort and filter under pivot table. So now here, sort and filter is also done. Now, the next item that I'm going to show you, it's called distinct count. But to showcase the distinct count, okay, I'll open a new Excel worksheet here, which is called as pivot table list of holidays. Okay. All right. So here, if you can see on the screen right now, I have a simple data from one of the travel agency, okay, called Wise Owl. So in column A, we have country. Column B is the resort name. Column C is the number of days their customers visited this particular country and resort name. Column D, we have travel method. Either they are traveling there using plane, train, or even coach. Okay, coach, it means bus. Column E is the sales. Column F is the cost. And column G is the holiday ID. Okay, all right. So here, I want you to focus on France. Okay, I'll highlight here and let me just zoom in. All right, so here, if you look at the France data, okay, if you want to check how many trip, okay, is made to France, okay, we can calculate the row here. They are actually 6, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Row 9 until 14. So there are 6 trips. But if I tweak, okay, I tweak the question a little bit. I want to know how many resort, okay, exist in France. Okay, if I look at the resort here, there's actually 5, not 6, right? Because Paris Euro Disney, there's a duplication here. It appears twice. So here 5, there's only Lyon, Paris Euro Disney, Nice, Toulouse, and also Nice here, right? So if we create our pivot table, definitely it will show as 6, okay, because there are 6 rows. But how do I ensure, all right, my pivot table is only showing 5, meaning they will remove any data that has been duplicate or appear more than once. Example here, Paris Euro Disney. Okay, so the step-by-step is the same, all right, as per what you did when you want to create a normal pivot table, a basic one. However, there are only 2 additional steps on top of that. Okay, so now I will show you what are those 2 additional steps. Now, let's try and create the pivot table together. First step, put your cursor anywhere inside your data. Go to Insert tab, Pivot Table, all right, existing worksheet. So location here, let's say I choose cell I3 here, okay, but don't click on OK yet. The first additional step that you need to do is you need to take down here, right? Can you see at the bottom here, we have a check box here with the title of add this data to the data model, okay? So if you want to use distinct count, you need to make sure you tick on this box. Only then you click on OK. All right, so don't rush into clicking OK. Make sure you tick on this box first. Only then you click on OK, right? So here, when we want to create the pivot table, I'll put country under rows, resort name, I'll move it into values, all right? So this is my pivot table. We can see for Australia, there are 2 resorts, Chile 1, England 2, France 6, and so on. But what we want to know is we want to know how many types, right? Not how many resort. Okay, so resort definitely that's 6, okay, because there are 6 strips. But how can I change here from 6 to 5? Okay, now you can see the title is count of resort name. Okay, I want to change it to distinct count. Okay, so let's go back to our pivot table fields earlier. Remember on the right side you have your 4 quadrant, right? So I want to go back there. So the first thing you can do is either you click on your pivot table fields will come out. But like here right now, when I click on the pivot table, it seems like my pivot table field does not want to come out, right? So don't worry, don't panic. You just right click and then at the bottom you choose show field list. Okay, so now your pivot table fields comes out again. So to change it from count to distinct count, I want you to go to your values quadrant, bottom right here. It's showing as count of resort name. I want you to click on the drop down arrow and you choose value field settings. Okay, so now it's showing as count. I want you to scroll to the bottom and you should see there's the word distinct count there. So choose distinct count, click on OK. And then now you can see your pivot table has changed accordingly. France is only showing as 5 here. Okay. And if you want to see the list of resort name, we can put the resort name under rows as well. Okay. Under your country here. So rows, there's 2, country and resort name. And you can see the name of it here. Lyon, Nice, Nimes, Paris, Euro, Disney, and also Toulouse. Okay. So that is the concept of distinct count. You want to eliminate any duplication, okay, that's happening inside your data. So you don't need to remove your raw data, right? You don't need to remove it. You just tweak it under your pivot table. So if you have your summary table, your pivot table, just make sure you change it from count to distinct count. And remember the 2 additional steps. First, you need to tick, okay, in the box of add this data to the data model. Okay, and then second additional step is you need to change from count to distinct count, and then you can do this under your field pivot table fields, okay, under values, under your value quadrant. Okay, so this is what you can do for you to create this distinct count here. Okay, so with that distinct count, right, we are done here. Okay, we have completed distinct count and this is how it looks like. And then the next item that I would like to cover is called calculated field. Okay, so calculated field, or what we call as if we want to create new column inside our pivot table. Okay, all right, so here I'll be using the same worksheet here. Okay, the distinct count and new column, and I'm using the file pivot table list of holiday. So let's create a normal pivot table here, right? So just click anywhere inside your data, insert tab, pivot table, existing worksheet, and then let's click on the location. Let's say here I want to put it under cell I-17, right? So here let's put country and then tick on sales and also cost. So your sales and cost, since they are numbers data, right? That's why it's automatically put under values. And your country, since it's a text data, that's why it was put under rows. So this is how my pivot table looks like. Okay, so I have 3 columns here. First column is country, second is sales, third is cost. Now, when I created this pivot table, let's say, okay, I received an instruction for me to find the profit. Okay, so profit is basically sales minus cost. So here, usually there are 2 ways for people to do it, all right? If they don't know about the existence of calculated field, what they do is they would put another column here beside cost, okay? And then they will calculate it manually. Okay, what do? They will put here equal to sales minus cost. They will put here equal to sales minus cost, okay? If you tell me, Adila, actually we can just drag, right? If you drag here, it will still take in the same cell. That's why we need to do it manually. If you don't have pivot table, if you have your normal data under your range or your table, you can also you can always drag it down, so it applies the same formula. But the case is different for pivot table. All right, you need to do it like this, manually, row by row. Okay, so this is one of the ways that people may do to actually find the profit. Okay, the second way is, all right, so this one is it's quite how to say, it's quite out of the box. Yeah, it's quite creative. What they do is they insert another column here, and they call this column G now as profit, and then they calculate equal to sales minus cost. Okay, cell E4 minus E4, and they would drag the formula down. So now we have a new column of profit, and then they will create another new pivot table by now including the profit column, right? So this is the second way that potentially people would use to find the profit. But I'm not going to insert a new column here, and I'm definitely not going to calculate my profit here manually, line by line or row by row. Okay, so here I want to introduce to you to a new item, okay, under pivot table, which is called as calculated field, whereby we can create a new column inside our pivot table. Okay, so to perform calculated field, the first step is you need to put your cursor inside your pivot table, anywhere as long as inside your pivot table. Second, there will be a new tab that appear, which is called as pivot table analyze, or even analyze tab only. Okay, so you click on your pivot table analyze tab here, you go to your calculations ribbon. Okay, do you see the area where I'm pointing right now, calculations ribbon? And you click on the first one, which is fields, items, and set. Okay, once you click there, the first item that you see is the function that we want, which is called as calculated field. Okay, so we have here calculated field. When you click on calculated field, you have name and also formula. So here you can customize, you can give it any name that you want. So example here, I put the name as profit, okay? And then the formula, you can remove the zero here, but you need to retain the equal to symbol, okay? So for formula, I want sales minus cost. Therefore, I double click under the fields down here. Sales, I click it twice, 1, 2, minus sign, double click on cost as well, 1, 2. So name is profit, formula is equal to sales minus cost. Okay, when you click on OK, can you see automatically I have my profit column here included inside my pivot table. Okay, and it has helped me to calculate automatically. I don't need to insert the column, I don't need to do it row by row. Okay, so this is how it looks like, and this is what we call as calculated field. So you can use you can create any new column, okay, any new column inside your pivot table using existing data that you have. Okay, let's say example in column M, I want to see the percentage of profit over sales. Okay, so we do the same step again. You put your cursor inside your pivot table, go to your pivot table analyze tab. Okay, you go to your calculations ribbon and you click on fields, items, and set. And then here you click on calculated field. So the name is, I will put here percentage of profit over sales. Okay, that is the one that I want to get, percentage of profit over sales. And the formula is, I would take my profit here, double click on profit, divide. Okay, you know in Excel, the symbol divide is represented by slash here, profit divide by sales. Okay, click on OK. So now can you see I have my sum, I have my percentage of profit, but here I need to change it to profit. So I just click on the percentage sign here under home tab. Then here my percentage of profit over sales for Australia is 88%. Okay, Chile is 90%, and so on. So my grand total of profit is 62% for profit over sales, right? So that's what I mean is you can just create any formula that you want. using existing data that you have. Okay, so you can do multiplication, you can do sum, deduction, you can even do division. All right, example here we did for percentage of profit over sales. Okay, all right, so with that, that is new column or what we call as calculated field. And now we have covered four main element inside Excel, which is first, inside pivot table in Excel, which is first the basic one. We covered 2 quadrant, 3 quadrant, and also 4 quadrant. Second, we covered sort and filter. Third, we covered the distinct count. And just now we've covered the calculated field. Calculated field. Okay, so this is the four main element. Okay, but now let's say, okay, we want to look at the final item inside pivot table, which is pivot chart. Meaning from your pivot table, we want to create a chart and graph. Okay, all right. So here, example, I'm using the first pivot table here, the distinct count. So I click anywhere inside the pivot table. The pivot table analyze tab will come out. And then here, I'll just click on pivot chart. Can you see the place where I'm circling right now? You can see there's a pivot chart there. Click on the pivot chart, and then you can choose which graph that you want, which chart. Do you want pie? Okay, do you want line? Do you want column, and so on? So you can choose it accordingly. Example here, I'm choosing the pie chart. Okay, let's choose pie chart. So this is how it looks like. Okay, right, wonderful. All right, and then let's say for the second pivot table, okay, the one that we have created profit, let's put another let's put another chart for this one, okay? So first step, put your cursor anywhere inside the pivot table, go to pivot table, analyze, click on pivot chart. And then here, okay, I'm going to use my line graph, all right, to see the sum of sales, cost, profit, and also percentage of profit over sales. And then here I click on OK. And this is how my chart looks like. Okay, we have a line here, and also another one, we have a pie chart. Okay, we have a line graph and a pie chart here. All right. Okay, wonderful. Now, assuming, let's say, I want to create a dashboard. Okay, I want to create a dashboard for the year 2022. Okay, I want to see how my performance is going, okay, and everything here. So what I'll do is I'll create another new worksheet here. Okay, I add on new worksheet and I rename the sheet to dashboard. Okay, all right. So when you want to create a dashboard, in Excel, you can see all of these lines, right? That separates us between row and also separate us between column. So what you can do is you can go to View tab, okay? And then you can untick on the grid lines. So now can you see your Excel worksheet looks very clean. There is no lines at all, okay? So what do? Is you go to View tab and you untick under the grid lines here, okay? So I'll go back and copy paste my charts here. First, the pie chart, okay? And then second, I have my line graph, all right? So let's put it nicely here, okay? Let's put it in order. Okay, I'll make my pie chart a little bit bigger here. So the size is pretty much the same as per my line graph. Okay, so now this two is the chart that I need inside my dashboard. Okay, so what I did earlier is from the pivot table, I created a pivot chart. And then I just created a new worksheet here and call it as dashboard. And I remove the grid lines at the back to make sure that it all appears clean and like a blank piece of paper. Okay, and I copy paste the two charts that I did earlier. Okay, so this is the two charts. Now let's do some cosmetic changes, some editing. I want to remove all of this gray, light gray color. Okay, I want to remove it. I want my I want to make sure my pivot table looks clean. So what I do is I right click on the word country here, and then I put here hide all field buttons on chart. So now can you see all of those has been removed, has been hide. So it looks cleaner and nicer now. And then I'll also remove the horizontal line at the back. So I click on those lines and I just click on delete on my keyboard. So now my line graph looks very clean. Okay. And then second, I want to remove the light gray as well here under my pie chart. So right click, hide all field buttons on chart. And then I would also click on the chart title here, total, and I remove it as well. All right, so now I have a very nice, clean charts and graph under my dashboard. Okay, all right. Now, I want to have a slicer. Okay, so slicer, it works like a filter. Remember in pivot table, we have our filter. So let's say I only want to see for Australia. So my dashboard here, it will only show everything for Australia. So I want a slicer or I want a filter here. So what I do is I click on my pie chart here. I go to my pivot chart analyze tab, and then here I have insert slicer. So I click on insert slicer. You can choose which slicer that you want. All right. So I'll be choosing country and also travel method for an example. Right. And then I click on OK. So this is how your slicer looks like. Okay. So I'm just going to show it here. I'm going to put it here nicely inside my dashboard. Right. Okay. So let's zoom in again. Okay. So here, all right, if let's say I click on the slicer, under country, I only click Australia. Right now, can you see my pie chart also only showing for Australia? But do you notice something? My line graph here, it does not reflect accordingly, correct? It's still showing Australia up to Trinidad. So how can I ensure all of these 4 items that I have in my dashboard is interconnecting with each other? Okay. Now, the reason why it only reflects on the pie chart is because when I create this slicer, where is my source? I click on my pie chart. So that's why earlier, when I click on Australia, only my pie chart has changes, right? But my line graph isn't. So here, to connect all of this together, I right click on my slicer, and can you see there's the word here called report connections, okay? You click on report connections, all right? So by right, we should have another pivot table here, all right, that we can click, all right? But now it seems like there's only one pivot table that appeared, all right? So I need to check back what's happening behind it. Okay, so let's go back to our distinct count and new column here. All right, so let's have a look at the source, okay, for each of the pivot tables. So let's go back to pivot table analyze. I go to change data source here. All right, it seems okay. All right, they took A3 until G31. Okay, A3 to G31, that's good. Now let's go to the second pivot table. Let's check the data source as well. So here I'll click on change data source. Okay, it seems like it's also using A3 to G31 as well. Okay, so that's good. All right, seems like there's no problem there. Okay, so here let's just right click again, go to report connection, click OK, and same goes here. We right click and then we click on report connection, click on OK. But when I click on the country, right, it still does not reflect. Okay, why does this happen? It happens because, all right, even though they have the same source of data whereby they take from column A to column G, but when you look at the pivot chart, right, okay, for pivot table for the second graph here, all right, I add up a new calculated field, all right, that's why we cannot, I created a new one, okay, which is sum of profit, sum of percentage of profit over sales. That's why you are not able to connect all of this report together, okay, all right. But let's say if I remove this, okay, we do not create any new calculated field, meaning I created another pivot table, okay, I created another pivot table here, right? At the bottom part here, number 3. and I will create country here. Okay, I will put country under rows, and then here I will put my profit under values. All right, let's say I have this and I created a pivot chart, okay, which is a line graph to show my profit by country. Okay, so this is the chart here, the line graph. Okay, do you see I did not use any calculated field, and now here I copy paste it to my dashboard. All right, so here is my line graph, and then here I hide the button on chart. Okay, I remove the word total here, and I remove the horizontal line at the back to make it more cleaner, and I delete the legend here as well. So this is my line graph. All right, so here if I click on only Chile, okay, it's still showing as only the, what to say, only the pie chart is changing, right, but not the line graph, right? So let's right click again, go to report connection. All right, make sure we connect everything together. Report connection, make sure we click on everything together. Right, so it's still showing here as Chile. Right, so by right here, it should also reflect under your line graph. So let's look back at the source here. Okay, let's look back at the sources here. So I'm checking the sources right now. Is it the same? A3 to G31. Wonderful. And here, let me check again. Is it A3 to G31? All right, so that's good as well. But here, why do we not connect is because the second scenario is because we are still using the same set of data. So if you want to make sure that you can connect all of these together, let me show you the final example here. All right. So here I have the same set of data. All right. But when I created the pivot table, what I did was I put it under new worksheet. Okay, so from the data worksheet, I create the pivot table in the new worksheet. Example here, profit by country and cookie. Second, unit sold each month. And third, profit by month. Only after I created those pivot table in different worksheet, I copy paste them into my dashboard here. Okay, so I have my profit by country here. I have my unit sold each month. Okay, I have my profit by month. All right, so here, all right, when I use my slicer, all right, example here, I only click on India. Okay, now you can see all of my graph is only showing the trend for India. So the secret here is you need to right click on your slicer, go to report connection, all right, and then you need to tick all of the pivot table that is that you want to connect them together. All right, remember we have 3 separate pivot table earlier in 3 different worksheets. So make sure you tick all of them, you click OK. Same goes to the second one. The second slicer, right click, report connection. Make sure you tick on all 3, click OK. And same goes to the timeline here. Right click, report connection. Make sure you click on all 3 pivot table and then you click OK. With that, only then all of your reports, okay, all of your charts and graph can be connected together. So let's say here I click on India, and for the product, I only click on chocolate chip. So now even all of my line graph here, it's only showing for chocolate chip only. Okay, regardless it is my unit sold each month or my profit by month. If I want to see everything back to normal, we just clear filter on my slicer here, clear filter, and now it's showing as all of the product that I have for all of the countries. Okay, so with that, inside pivot table, we covered few things. Basic, all right, let's do a little bit of recap here on what we've covered inside today's session. For basic, we covered 2, 3, and 4 quadrant. Second, we covered the sort and filter. Third, we covered the distinct count. Fourth, we covered the calculated field. And finally, we have a peek on how we can create a dashboard. And it's very important for you to connect all of your report together. All right, and make sure you have three different pivot table, not within the same worksheet, but it must be in a different worksheet. So that's why I showed you few cases before we get the correct one, because these are some of the problems that people encounter where they cannot connect their reports together. This is the reason why. First, you need to make sure you have different sheets, okay? And then inside the dashboard itself, when you right click and choose report connection, make sure you tick on each of those pivot table, only then you click on OK. All right. So with that, that is the 5 items that I wanted to cover in today's session. And I hope by attending the session today, I do make pivot table seems easy for all of you. And I hope you can apply all of the tips and tricks that I've shared with you inside your work. All right. So with that, thank you so much. And I pass this session back to Nafis if there's any questions from all of you.
All right. Thank you, Miss Adila, for the great sharing. Okay, so if you have any question, you can leave a comment below and Miss Adila will respond to them. All right. Is there any question? Okay, all right. Hmm, Just let's wait for another minute. Then if there is no question, we just continue lah. Okay, okay, never mind. Okay, so just wanted to share about our upcoming training. So we have the nearest one is Microsoft Excel Intermediate and Advanced level. We will doing at PJ. Then the date is 13 and 14 September. So those who want to join can contact us. Or you can. Okay, so for the next one is our upcoming training in this month. So we have Power BI, and then SEO, SEM, and also Digital Marketing Masterclass. Then for the next month training, we have ChatGPT training, social media marketing, and we also do Excel training, Power Query. And the next one is data analytic. Okay, and this one for October, Microsoft Excel, Miss Adila will teach by herself on 25 and 26 October at Armada Hotel PJ. And next one is, and the last of the session of October is Digital Marketing Masterclass. Okay, all right. So kindly please follow and like our social media and get in touch with us. If you're interested in enrolling in one of these courses, you can contact us. So thank you all for today's session. Thank you, Miss Adila, and have a good day.
All right. Thank you so much, Hafiz. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice
Bye
day.
bye.
Bye bye.